When we're young, we move with freedom and confidence, with a great resilience to injury. But somewhere along the line, we develop poor habits and become more vulnerable to back pain. Back Pain Solutions features evidence-based and practical advice to help you take back control of your health and get back to the activities you love. This is your guide to better back health through movement. So join us as we demystify some of the commonly held beliefs about back pain and build your confidence to a stronger back the smart way.
Welcome back to the Back Pain Solutions podcast, everybody, with me, Ben James, and as always, my co-host, Jacob Stain, where we're here to help educate you on your back health and get you back to the activities you love. As always, head on over to smartstrong.co.uk, get a free copy of our ebook, download that, and start taking back control of your back health in the next 7 days. Some real great actionable advice to really start to take back control of your back health and start to understand some of the issues, the problems that a lot of people are facing, and some of the things that they're doing every day that are causing their back pain to remain or to get worse. So take advantage, get on over and have a read and give us some feedback, because it's always welcome. Today, we're talking something a little bit different. We're talking about bone broth, or bouillon, becoming more and more popular as a nutritional supplement or even a replacement food in the diet. What's that got to do with back health? Why would you consider it? Well, we're going to answer those questions today on this episode of the Back Pain Solutions podcast. So, Jacob, this is something that you've been making for some time. I haven't. And it's something, as always, as I'm looking at reviewing nutrition and the foods that I eat, it's something that I've been reading about and considering. Why should I consider it? Why did you consider it? And are you making your own? Are there good places to buy it? Let's dive in, ask and answer some of those questions.
Thank you, Ben. I've been using the bouillon I've been making my own bouillon for a few years now, actually. I'm currently on my third crock pot, because they don't last that long when you do 20-hour or 30-hour bouillon sessions on a constant or regular basis. And
so you're wiping out your slow cookers.
yeah,
or your crock
exactly.
pot.
Yeah. The first one I took back, and the shop said, it was within a year you can have another one. But the second one, when that broke, I had to buy a new one.
Wow. Have you got any recommendations? Just quickly, just for the listeners.
The crock pot, the basic crock pot. I've got the 4.7. I think it's nearly 5 liters in 4.7 or 5.7. It's the biggest one out there. And it has a ceramic bowl. And I quite like that it's not a non-stick metal bowl. I like the idea that it's a ceramic coated bowl, which is natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah, got you. Okay, so be prepared to wipe them out within a year.
Unfortunately, I'd like them to last a little bit longer, but that's just how it goes. And
there's a business opportunity.
Yes.
Bone broth crock pot.
So I've been using it for a long time now, and I always have a very good feeling from it. And I'm already eating quite healthily, so it's not that I have this amazing change when I have the bouillon, but as a snack throughout the day, it works perfect for me. And
so it's kind of an addition rather than a replacement for you.
Absolutely, yeah. And
Okay.
also for my wife, if she wants to, have a snack and she doesn't want to necessarily get some calories into her body, especially not in the form of carbs, and we're eating quite low carb. So if we want to get a snack in that's salty and good for the gut and contains a little bit of fat, not a lot, depends on how much you leave in there, but is packed with nutrients, then the bouillon works amazingly well.
Okay. And where did you start with it? Did you buy it? Because increasingly now it's available, isn't it? From whether it's online, in shops, farm shops, maybe you can buy it pre-prepared. Did you ever do that? Is it an easy option to start with, or did you just crack on and just make your own and test and iterate and change and get the recipe that was good for you, or that you?
I started straight off making my own, because I was quite often I read around a little bit, and I saw especially the GAPS diet, GAPS, by Campbell. She and their protocol is very much into it. Their protocol is aimed at fixing the gut for a big part. and they use a lot of
Yeah.
bouillon related products, all homemade, with great advice and really good information and some science to back it up. And so that's where I started. That's where I got motivated to start my bouillon and start experimenting. And in the beginning, I had a fair few batches that were awful. And I'm going to give some tips today into making sure that it's, you don't go through all the mess I went through. But if you get it right, it's really tasty and it's great.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like you say, are you doing any fasting and taking bouillon or bone broth, drinking it uh, during your kind of weekly nutritional plan? Or is it, like you say, just an addition more than anything?
It's more than just an addition. I do the fasting mimicking diet maybe once in 2 weeks. I've been a little bit lazy lately, but I try and if I can, I aim to do it once in 2 weeks, sometimes once in 3 weeks. And so I take a whole day where I only have an avocado in the morning, avocado in the evening. So I keep my carb intake very low, and I have a high source of fat. And then throughout the day, I drink my homemade bouillon just to make sure I nourish my gut and the bacteria in my gut. Because as we know, if you fast, especially for a whole day, you don't eat anything throughout the day, then you have the danger of your gut bacteria changing, and that actually becoming a problem when you start eating the following day again. But the bouillon helps to maintain the gut profile, the bacteria profile, just like it is, and so you get through that nicely and smooth.
Got it. Got it. And are you drinking it cold, warm, or does it matter?
Always warm, always warm. So I
Is
have a
that a
little.
palatable thing, or just
Sorry, is it there?
is it about the palatable, making it nicer to drink if it's
Exact.
warmer, or is that
e-
a nutritional thing as well?
No more for the taste, exactly. So
Sure.
I have a little milk jug, and I know how much I have to scoop out, whether it's for myself and my wife, and then or a friend sometimes. And so I just heat it up in a little milk jug very quickly, on the hob.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's talk about some of the science behind it, and then we talk about how you prepare it, what some of the tips you have for making it, quantities, on a daily basis that you would consider or recommend, and then we can kind of link it back into, well, why could this be good for back health and not just back health, gut health, but musculoskeletal health as well. So there is a lot of research now. Obviously, we've talked previously about nutritional, the depth of nutrition and the depth of nutritional advice out there. What are some of the benefits that you've come across that maybe you've experienced by taking bouillon on a daily basis?
Yeah. So to be honest, I think the benefits I feel, or that I've noticed myself, is the fact that I feel good. I mean, when I know my gut is doing well, the rest of my body is doing well, generally speaking. For sure, if my gut is not doing well, then the rest of my body isn't doing well. So that's my makeup, and that's what I'm very aware of. And so that's something I pay attention to. But if we look at the research, and I was looking a little bit, and there isn't really that much research on bouillon itself. I read one person was describing it as such, saying that it's very difficult to trace what all the nutrients in the bouillon is exactly doing. And but besides that, if you go and look at what's in the bouillon, then you really get an idea of, okay, what's this stuff going to do for me? And so that's the question, what are you drinking? What's inside the bouillon? And that depends
Yes.
very much on the type of bone broth that you're making. So are you using fish bones? Are you using chicken bones? Are you using cow bones or game? So I quite often I ask the butcher, the local butcher in the hunting season. He knows me by now, so he calls me over and say, "I've got some game bones. Would I like it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, please." And so he prepares 1 kilogram packs for me, and I'll take maybe 10 1 kilogram packs of bones, and I'll freeze it in, and then on a weekly basis I'll just defrost it and prepare it.
Yeah, and a question here, I guess, around the bones that you get from the butcher. In what kind of format are they? Because I asked that question. Is it for people that maybe are at home? They'll cook a chicken for maybe a Sunday lunch or for a meal. Can they just take that kind of chicken carcass, throw that in the stock pot, or what should they be looking for if they're considering doing that, or if they're looking to source bones? Because I think that's quite a key point if you're looking to make your own.
Yeah, so I in the beginning I was buying whole chickens and I was deboning them myself, and I must be honest, I'm not a butcher, so I think quite often it was a mess. If I had to take the chicken breast out in one piece, it came out in two pieces, or I had to cut little bits off the bone at the end, and that was my lack of skill. But I was doing that a lot. I was buying a few chickens and I was deboning them, and so I'd use those carcasses to make my own bouillon.
And when you say deboning, you were literally just getting as much of the tissue off the bones that you could, and it was literally bone, or were you leaving some of the tissue on just out of interest?
Yeah, the chicken wings and the legs, I didn't debone them. I just deboned the rest of the chest and the back as much as I
Hmm.
can. And then afterwards, I would keep the chicken leg bones and the chicken wings, the leftovers, and I would use those also for making bouillon. But in the beginning, I was doing that. But the point I want to make is that after a while, I've got a busy schedule. After a while, it just didn't go anymore. So I thought, this is way too much
Yeah.
work, and it's great if I didn't have much else to do, and I'd like to be efficient, and I don't want to waste, and I want to use everything. But in the end, I was just like, okay, no, the amount of stock or broth that I'm making, I need to figure out something else. So I started going to the butcher, and at the butcher, I specifically tell him, okay, well, look, you have a few choices. You can ask just for bones, and you're going to be making bone broth, and that's good. But you can, if you want to be more specific, you want to get more gelatin off the bone, then you need to ask for knee and ankle. And so
Okay.
the butcher knows very well what you mean with this, and they know very well what it's used for. So they're not going to look at you strange or ask you, well, uh, knee or ankle, what are you going to do with that? So they know very well. They will take a whole knee and they will cut it into pieces for you. So you have little blocks, and that means you've got more surface area, obviously, of the knee instead of putting the whole knee in the slow cooker. And you can just see the amount of cartilage in the ankle and in the knee, but even beforehand. So okay, wow, this is when you boil this up, it's gonna provide you with a lot of gelatin and a lot of cartilage. And so then you get
Yeah,
that.
and let's
Yeah, no, go for it.
and gelatin. Let's talk about gelatin because that's a key component of bouillon of bone broth that is a benefit and has a lot of nutritional benefits for us in terms of consumption. So that's amino acids, essential amino acids, but also iron, vitamin A, K, fatty acids, etc. And this is where a lot of the benefits are coming from nutritionally.
Yeah, so the cartilage from that's on the bone, that gets broken down into, or that becomes gelatin when you boil it up. And remember, the idea is not to boil it. The idea is to have it simmering. So, it's just lightly bubbling. And in a slow cooker, the benefit of that is you can set it for 20 hours. The max is 20 hours on the setting. And so it can just slowly bubble away. And so we keep the temperature just high enough, but we're not boiling it. So we're not destroying as much as we would when we have a really hot boiling pot. The
Mhm.
cartilage becomes gelatin, and in the gelatin, which obviously then becomes a running substance or a runny substance in the bouillon, that contains the essential amino acids. So it's packed with amino acids, and that's amazing that you're drinking that.
Yes, exactly. And are you saying, well, would you recommend that this could be instead of taking other supplements? or again alongside? Again, as always, depends on the balance of your diet overall. Anyway, clearly.
I think you are better off taking or having bouillon, bone broth, if you do it properly, than buying chondroitin sulfate or glucosamine supplements. Absolutely. Then you're getting it in a natural form. It's exactly what
Mhm.
you should be getting, and it's not been going through a processed or a process where they prepare it for you and make it into a powder or a tablet. So I think absolutely, yeah, this is massively beneficial. And instead, most likely, I mean, I've not looked at research, but I have a gut feeling the amount of amino acids that you get in from the gelatin is just ample.
Yeah, and obviously the other additional benefit from a nutritional point of view, when we're talking gelatin specifically, we know that the research has shown increase in the amount of collagen in tissues as a result. And
Yeah,
clearly, when we're trying to relate this back to back pain specifically, we know that back pain generally as a result of tissue damage, often the case. So this is specifically aimed at, along with other nutritional approaches, maximizing that healing process, supporting that healing process so that we can maximize our potential for recovery, not just focus on, as always, symptoms of a back problem and trying to get to that root cause and just deal with it just with the exercise based approach, um, or other you know tests and procedures. But nutritionally, if we're at optimum, then we're supporting those tissues. Collagen is such a big component of connective tissues, whether it's ligaments, muscles, tendons. And as a result, if we're taking supplements like this, such as bouillon, then clearly that could be a beneficial aid in our recovery.
absolutely. And that's what I tell a lot of my patients as well. Just try it. Just try it. You know, I've convinced a few patients to actually buy a slow cooker over the years.
Yeah.
Some of them are doing it in a pot, but um, and I remember one patient quite clearly. She lives on a farm here in the Netherlands, and we made a massive plan for her. She had a lower back vertebrae was really not looking good on the X-ray, and if I remember well, there was a bit of end plate disruption and a bit of swelling in the bone. And I said, okay, let's give it 6 months, and worked out a little training program. But we just notched up her diet, and we added some bouillon in there, and she was up and open for everything, and she just went straight for it. And within a few months, it was, the recovery was just amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, as always, this isn't something to take that's going to cure your back pain. This is just that supplement on that journey to recovery, as are a lot of the other bits of information that we share and the advice that we provide. This is all just supplementary and supporting that recovery. So, like you say, Jacob, it's a case of saying to patients, try it. Now, let's rethink the diet. Let's rethink nutrition as well as focusing on passive techniques, certainly exercise-based approach to back recovery. Let's look at the other things that could support that journey to recovery, and this is just one of those things. And the nutritional value that you get from bone broth bouillon is such that it's going to support musculoskeletal health. So it's certainly going to be a benefit. It's not going to give you any negative results. So why not give it a go? Why not try it? It's a no brainer alongside other approaches. And with that in mind, you can buy it now pre-made, but that's quite costly. You said you've always made your own. What's a good recipe for people as a takeaway to maybe start in the next couple of days? Obviously, you've got to find a source of bones to be efficient from what you're saying. So having a discussion with local butchers and things, that's not a big hurdle. But in terms of a recipe to make it palatable, tasty, and get that right nutritional value, what's your approach at the moment?
So so here's the biggest tip that I learned after a few batches that I had to really force myself finishing. It wasn't really that bad, but it was, it could have been better. So the first biggest tip, you'll see it online as well, is you can either you can boil it up without having cooked the bones first, or you can put your bones in the oven for 20 minutes on a medium temperature and let it cook through. And so that makes a big difference in the taste. If you pre bake in the oven your bones, so you have some heat going through the whole bone, depending on how big your bones are. If it's chicken bones, it's going to be a little bit less. If it's big, if it's knee and ankle and bones like that, then you have to cook it a little bit longer. And then you basically have the taste in your bouillon that it's been cooked, instead of the raw bone that you just boil up. And so that makes a big difference for the taste. And if we look at a recipe, so I keep it simple, and
So
there's
just back on that, Jacob. What sort of temperature? How long would you put the bones in the oven for?
I'd go for 20 minutes, depending on your oven, and depending, medium temperature, 160. But keep an eye on it. So you don't want to burn the cartilage. You want to make sure that and
Mhm.
that stays intact. Otherwise, that's where you get the nutrients from. So you don't want it to go. You don't want to scorch the cartilage. And
Sure.
then
Okay. So about medium heat, 20 minutes
and
should be
then
good.
and then the recipe, I would say, like I say, I keep it quite basic. So I prepare my bones in the oven. Then I put them in my crock pot, and then I add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And so what I know of that is that it helps to draw minerals out of the bones. It also affects the flavor positively. And then I put a lot of salt. So I'll put like 3 medium heaped tablespoons of Celtic sea salt. That's a fair bit of salt. I put mixed herbs. That's why I just keep it simple with a fair bit of mixed herbs. And then I'll switch it up between
Just
either
dried mixed herbs?
just dried, either Italian or herb de Provence, French mixed herbs. And then I'll put, if I'm lazy, I'll just chuck 2 onions in there. But I don't peel them. I just cut them in half, and that's good enough as they cook through. Something like I cook a lot, and I hate the thing I hate the most is peeling the onions.
I share that frustration, yeah.
um, and then
Okay, so
otherwise,
2 onions?
yeah, yeah. No, if you don't want to put onions, you put like celery and
Sure.
let me see. That's yeah, that's all I do. So then I fill the water up almost to the brim. So it's bubbling away a little bit.
Okay.
You don't want it to
So no set volume, just fill it
just fill
as
it up.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah, if you have the big crock pot and you have 1 kilogram of bones, you fill it up, and it provides you with about 3.5 liters of bouillon.
Nice. And then you 20 hours?
20 hours exactly. Sometimes it'll go into the keeping it warm setting after 20 hours if I'm not getting to it quick enough. So I suppose it's a little bit longer, but yeah, minimum 20 hours.
And then what you doing with it afterwards? How you getting it out? What are you storing it in? And and how often or how much you taking on a daily basis?
So the crock pot's handy. You take the ceramic bowl with everything inside of it out of the crock pot uh, crock pot itself. The casing which heats
Yeah.
up the bowl. And so I take that
Sure.
out, and then I have a big pot, and I have a biggish sieve, and so I pour. So I have a big metal spoon with holes in it, and I make sure the bones don't go along, but I keep them in the crock pot, and then I pour all the juice through the sieve, so all the herbs and things get caught up in the sieve, and then I leave the bones in the crock pot with the onions and everything, and then I have all the juice in this big bowl. I take the sieve out, and then I let it cool down for usually 5-6 hours, or from the morning till the evening when I get back, because I don't want to put this hot, big hot pot in the fridge. I want it to cool down first, and then I put it in the fridge. And overnight, the next morning, I'll have this thick layer of fat on top of the bouillon. And that's what a lot of people think. They think, oh, there's a lot of, they look at bouillon and they go, oh, there's a lot of fat on it or in it. And actually, there's almost no fat in it. All the fat goes to the top, and I scrape that off. And
Okay.
so then you have that then you have a gelatinous thick substance, and then I use a glass mug and I scoop that out into glass jars, 500 milliliter glass jars.
Okay. And then you'll freeze it ultimately and take one out a day
Exactly.
maybe, or
Exactly. So in the beginning, I was like, "Oh, can I freeze this glass jar with bouillon?" And I was like, it's gonna break or something. And I've only had a couple of times where the glass jar actually broke, and that's because I filled it up too much. And so when it froze, it expanded, and it expanded and it popped off the bottom part of the glass jar. So don't fill it up too much. If you leave like a centimeter free at the top, then you don't have to be afraid of putting your glass jars in the freezer. It's going to be absolutely fine.
that's a great tip. That's a great tip. And I bet other people have fallen foul of that in the past on that expense. So great point. So that's a great simple recipe to add a little bit of nutritional value to the diet pretty easily, as always. Getting those bones, maybe an initial challenge, but once you overcome that hurdle, it's clearly quite a simple thing to make. And the gelatin and the nutritional benefits that you'll get for musculoskeletal health, back health, it's absolutely worth a try. And what we're saying is, it's a supplement. Clearly, it's not going to be a magic potion, but we've got to try these things. And if you're suffering, along with our advice, give it a go, give it a whirl. And as always, thank you, Jacob. And for people listening, please head over to the iTunes website and give us a rating, give us a review. It helps to increase the show value as we learn lessons from the feedback we're getting, and also helps us to answer some of the questions that we're getting in and shape some of the episodes that we do moving forward. So we really appreciate the reviews and the ratings that we've got so far. So thank you, everybody that's done that. And as always, head on over to the smartstrong.co.uk website. It's contact us page, throw some questions. We're here to help, and we'll continue adding value as we move forward with future episodes. So Jacob, thanks again. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll join you again on the next show.